It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the UConn Associate Head Women's Ice Hockey Coach Casey Handrahan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching?
I think coaching in general. Growing up, my father was a coach. He actually coached women's basketball. So it was kind of one of those things that you kind of monkey see, monkey do. And when you're playing, I tended to be more calculated and more analytical. So I think trying to break down plays and gathering information from coaches that I had, and the coaches that knew what I was trying to do appreciated it. Some thought I was trying to question their decision. I was just trying to gather information. So I think I always had a will to coach, and appreciated what they did and how they put things into coaching, and that puzzle that is trying to bring a group of people together to win and succeed and ultimately be better in themselves. So I think it was always something that I was attracted to, and never thought I'd actually make it a career. I've been very fortunate enough to be on this journey, and it's hopefully not going to end anytime soon, but who knows?
That's so amazing. What was it like playing for Niagara?
It was a great experience in the fact that you're talking about a small school, and I was fortunate enough to watch my brother and Coach McKenzie I'm working with now be the pioneers of the program, and being able to watch them go through the aches and pains of building a program from scratch, and seeing how it evolved into their final year of beating UNH in the Elite Eight and losing to North Dakota, who eventually went on to win the tournament. That was something that I wanted to be a part of, and the pride in such a short span of time in 4 years. It was the only decision that was easy for me as far as saying that's something I want to be a part of, and it was very lucky to eventually move on and being able to play there. It was a memory that definitely I'll cherish.
Of course, leaving Niagara, what was it like going professionally and playing for 5 seasons?
Probably a mistake to come out when I did. I graduated in 3 years, and probably should have went back another year, given the fact that it was a lockout year. So the trickle-down effect, the one team I was trying out at the time, there was 3 players from Tampa Bay that just won the Stanley Cup, and now they're in the CHL. Like, what that trickle-down effect, and not saying that I would have had any opportunity otherwise, but the adjustment to the game itself was very different. In the college game, it's a shorter season. There's much more demand as far as playing a level and intensity. So I had to learn the game all over again, of kind of how to pace yourself, how to think, and you're playing against men, you're playing against professionals that have played the game for some 15, 20 years. So how do you outthink them? There's basically that wise old veteran. That's exactly what it was. So if you're a young kid that's flying around thinking you're doing things right because you're working hard, there was a lot of nights where coach looked at me saying, what are you doing? This isn't college anymore. So it was an adjustment, but I was lucky enough to have teammates and coaches that had some patience with me. And like I said, it molded me into a better player, but obviously been in the coaching career, and the people that I met and the teammates that I was able to play with and coaches, it definitely helped in this experience, in this career job.
Of course, during your 5 seasons, were you only with Tampa Bay?
No, it wasn't with Tampa Bay. I was with, started at Corpus Christi, then was in Macon, Georgia, then Kalamazoo, Bloomington, Peoria, Orlando. So kind of traveler, but I would say most of my career was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and still hold dear friendships with many of those people to this day. And like I said, God rest his soul, Mark Reeds, I was very fortunate enough to play underneath him, and such a brilliant mind. So hockey has given me a lot of friendships and a lot of experiences that I don't think I would have had otherwise, had I have not taken that step to kind of get on the minor pro circuit and, eat bad sandwiches and long bus rides. That's kind of the nature of the beast. So.
Of course, after your playing time, what was it like getting into college coaching?
It was an adjustment when you're dealing with grown men and pros that have been in the game for a long time, and then you're going into coaching young adults and obviously females. It's a little bit different. Obviously, the way they process information, and I would say it's that adjustment. And fortunately, I had Mac and my brother and a few others inside college hockey that I knew, and my brother said it. It's roughly 97% of the time, it's all about managing people. It's not about X's and O's, whereas coaching, you sometimes feel like, and especially in pro, it's a lot about the X's and O's and the structure, but the good coaches are the ones that actually care about the person and people management. So that was an adjustment. The communication skills was vital. You had to learn how to communicate all over again and process your information, not assume anything, and be very detailed and very organized. So it was an adjustment, a big adjustment.
What was it like for you to join the UConn women's coaching staff?
Like I said, a privilege. I've known Coach McKenzie for a very long time, but I don't take that for granted, as sometimes when you mix friendship and business, it gets ugly. But it was definitely something that I saw as a advantage in the fact that my wife's side of the family is from here. So I knew this was a good spot. I know it's a university that prides themselves on excellence academically and athletically. And they obviously, you look at the success of the women's programs around here, from field hockey to basketball, of course, and soccer's. It's a university that obviously prides themselves on treating the female athlete the right way. So I knew it was an opportunity to succeed. And obviously, when you're working with a buddy in Mac, that obviously helps too. It doesn't feel like a job, and it hasn't been so in 9 years. So very lucky, and like I said, very grateful for this opportunity.
Of course, in your 9 years, what has it been like the 3 times that you went to the Hockey East Championship?
Painful, because every time we've lost, so of course, it's been painful. But in the cliches, in every loss you learn, and I think that's something that our program, we're on the brink. We feel like we're on the brink, but it's been great experience for us, and I know our alumni are proud, and the people that we've been fortunate enough to coach here have sent a lot of messages over this last year as we were off to a pretty decent start. And the nice part is that our players are striving to be better, not necessarily just a championship. So I think that those 3 instances, it's been a great experience, and I think it only builds you stronger but hungrier. And we know we can get to that spot. It's just being patient and having the right people around us. And it's a great group. So definitely three games that you want back.
What was the 2017-18 season like, and the 2019-2020 season like?
Well, the 17 season was, we thought we had a team that could make a run in the year, and we kind of was off to a slow start. And we knew we had a leadership group that was really good from an experience. We had pieces in every area from goaltending up, and the season didn't go as expected, as we thought maybe it would be a little bit better from a wins losses perspective. But we had a lot of ties that year, and I think we peaked at the right time. And our senior leadership from Jamie Fox and Leah Lum all the way down, and Annie Belanger and net, I think it was a great eye opener for us is the character of the group that we had and the pieces that we brought in, not just as players but as people. And that was something that was quite special, because we were up against it, of course. Playing a team in BC that, everybody had us cast aside, and for us to win was huge. And the wheels kind of fell off. I think the emotional whirlwind of beating Boston College in the semis was something that was very important, but we were close as well. So it was good. And then, that final season, again, we felt like we had a team to get the job done, and we fell short. We had a little bit of an injury bug, losing our captain at an odd time, and bits and pieces. But I still felt like the vigor and the resilience that our team showed was definitely something to be proud of, and just foundation of our program of just being perseverant and problem solving. And last year was a prime example during COVID that there wasn't excuses. It was just, this is the present situation. This is what we have. We have to deal with it and figure out ways to win. And I think all of those seasons that we got to the Hockey East finals, it was just a matter of finding a way to win, just not complaining if we don't have this, don't have that, or what the public media says about us. It's just, it's been good from an identity perspective for our program.
Of course, how has the 2019-2020 season being the most improved and the most popular season? What was that like for you?
Like I said, it's a great group. We had a bunch of characters, and that's the other part is you can't just have one type of person. You have to have many, and you have to appreciate personalities. And I think it was a group of many personalities, but at the right times when they came to the rink, they understood that there's a business decision and kind of a business mentality, of let's get the job done and let's work for it. So I think it was very good from the group. And that's what I remember the most, as opposed to maybe the way we lost was tough, but we're a group that kind of was determined and just got unlucky. And kudos to Northeastern.
What does a typical game day look like for the UConn women's ice hockey?
Well, hopefully wins. Hopefully. The typical game day experience is for us, we don't try and dictate what the players do. We kind of treat them like professionals, not kind of we do, and like adults is whatever works for them, they do. And then once we get closer to game time, there's a little more structure from a meeting perspective, but we don't try and meddle. They either know how to perform or they don't, and they know what works for them. But, one size fits all of getting prepared just doesn't work. I learned that in my professional days of how I warm up and how you warm up and how we get prepared is different, and trying to force somebody to do something otherwise. So it's pretty laid back, and it's about the players. It's not about us. The only thing we really have to do is just call the lines out and see who goes, but otherwise it's up to them. And coaching, we have very little to do with it.
Of course, who are some teams that you face in your conference?
Well, of course, what we talked about, Northeastern's at the cream of the crop, is they've had a lot of success over the last really decade since we've been in the league. So that's the bar for us. And Boston College has been a great rivalry in BU. And Vermont is a team that's on the rise. That's a scary team that, quite frankly, I wouldn't want to play. And our team from top to bottom is pretty strong from all 10 teams. So from Holy Cross, UNH, Merrimack, it's a great conference and a great group of coaches. So it's a lot of fun every weekend.
What is it like, obviously, playing Boston College and obviously Northeastern, as they're so close in distance to y'all?
It's easier. I think, for us, we don't have to travel too much. Our location, I think, is a big thing for our players, where they're not getting worn down by long bus rides. So it's good, but those bus rides get quiet on the way there, and there's time to think, but you'd like it to be quicker. So there's not a lot of time to think, and don't make the game any bigger than it is. And I think it's good. Our proximity to all of our opponents is pretty neat, and we're pretty fortunate.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you have helped build for the UConn women's ice hockey program?
Sure. It's something that's very important to us. Is you can have great teams and great players, but if you don't have great people, it doesn't matter. And obviously, with a new facility coming here in the near future, you can have the state-of-the-art facility, but if you have a bad locker room and a bad culture, it means nothing. And we pride ourselves in making sure that if I was a player, would I want to come to the rink every day and enjoy it? And I think that's the big part about it. And through the recruiting process, we really make it a point of, is this person somebody that we want to see every day, and what are they like on the worst days? And I think that's the important part. And our team has really taken on that identity, and our players have bought into it, as far as it's about the team, it's about the greater good. And we want you to be an individual. We want you to be your own person, but at the same time, is it progressive to our goals as a university and as a team? So we've been very lucky too. It's recruiting. There's no science. There's no perfect players. There's no perfect coach or perfect school, but we feel like the person that we try and identify has been something of a success to our program, that we want players that are hungry, that are good people and come from good families, regardless of location in the world they come from.
Of course, what does the recruitment process look like for prospective student athletes looking to play college women's ice hockey?
Well, it's thankfully the rule changed a couple years ago where the early recruiting started to really get carried away, and the 22 class year, so next year's incoming freshman is where it got really crazy, where it was about 5-6 years out where we were recruiting and committing kids in grade 7, grade 8, and so for us that was a challenge because like we said, there's a big emphasis on character and on culture, and when a kid is 14, they don't know who they are. So how can we go and recruit? So it's a unique process. So luckily, thankfully, that changed. So it's a typical communication, and you start with surveys and camps, and that's kind of how you start to identify a player. And from there, if you feel like it's somebody you want to continue on with, then it's a relationship that you got to try and build. As coaching, it's not about X's and O's. It's about communication, and do they respond to your communication level? And it's not carbon copy to every recruit. Everybody needs something different, whether it's somebody from Minnesota, Vancouver, Sweden. It's going to be all different. But ideally, it's something that we want to make sure that they come and see the school, because in February, that's when it gets real hard, from papers and essays and exams and bumps and bruises and bus rides is what are they like on their worst days. So it's very important for us to meet them and have that tour, and for them to meet our players, and our players to see if, okay, does this person belong inside of our family? And like I said, it's not a perfect science, but every program and every university has a different way of doing things. And under the circumstances with COVID, it's been a little bit more difficult, as our roster has been Canadian heavy, not by design, just kind of how that works. And having that border issue didn't help. And so now it's kind of challenged us to kind of reinvent that recruiting process for the international. So it's been a good challenge.
Of course, with ice hockey being so popular, not just in North America, but obviously internationally, what is it like having those international players come, obviously, to UConn and be on the UConn team?
Well, we haven't really had any. We had one our first year we came in, so we haven't really had international players from what I include international, meaning European and overseas, where the Canadians are deemed as internationals. But I find it quite comical in their first 2 weeks of orientation, they have to learn how to dress in the winter. Meanwhile, some of these kids are coming from northern Manitoba, where it's winter 11 months of the year. So it's an adjustment, and obviously being away from home for any kid. I mean, I lived 15-20 minutes from Niagara University, and there were moments where you feel like you miss home. So I think it's natural, and how do you get them out of that funk? And it gets back to the culture inside of your team, that the better team and locker room you have, they can help each other through it. Because as coaches, a 17, 18-year-old kid doesn't want to sit down with a grown adult and talk about, what's going on, and they're intimidated. We welcome it, of course, no question. But that's where your culture and your team can really carry you through that homesickness and that transition process of getting from, again, an 18-year-old high school student into a college student. So it's a big adjustment, but we feel like it's been done in the past of, again, paying it forward. Our team does a really good job with that.
What does official visit look like for the UConn women's ice hockey program?
Well, it's wine and dine as best you can. Not so much the wine, but it's a typical is you meet the team. If you can see a practice and see a game, that's ideal. Walking around campus and seeing students is important. I know summertime seems to be a big time for recruits, but you don't see them on campus the students on campus, so you don't really get a good idea. So that's important, that we really get them to see the school during school days, and you meet with the coaches, and it's like I said, it's not necessarily about us. It's hopefully there's a lot of talking and communicating prior to the visit on the phone calls and so on and so forth. So kind of that last, I guess, straw, or that last piece of the puzzle is the visit, but it's more the team vetting that player and that family. And if the family's involved in the visit, we really make sure that they know that we coach them as we want our daughters coached and as our kids coached. So I think that's something that's comforting to the parents, because like you said, international students coming some 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, they want to know that their daughters are being taken care of, not just the academic or the athletic piece, but the holistic side as well.
Of course, as a coach, what is it like seeing former UConn players go into the PHF or the PWHPA?
It's a proud moment because I don't think these players have really peaked until, really, I would say 2 or 3 years after college. I mean, you look at, just take the National Hockey League, for instance, or even players that have been in the international, meaning Team USA, Team Canada, and their respective countries. You don't really see what they're really about until they get into that 22, 23, 24 years old, because that's where you kind of know who you are. And it's very proud to see them, obviously, as being a UConn member, but also as a person that, through 4 years here, they struggle with confidence. I think every coach can say every person deals with confidence. And when you try and explain to them how good they can be and how good they are, they don't really get it. But when they get to 22, 23, and you get that phone call saying, thanks, coach, I know what you're talking about now. That's the rewarding part. And it's been fun. It's been fun now that as we've had a good handful that are in the professional ranks and a few that now are looking on to hopefully take the Olympic positions. It's a lot of fun, and you're a proud coach. We have a little bit to do with it, but not a lot by any stretch. It's not about us.
Of course, who are some notable people that have gone on to the professional way, whether it's the PWHPA or the PHF?
Well, I think right now probably the biggest one would be Leah Lum. She's playing for the Vanki Rays in Russia and going to be hopefully representing Team China in the Olympics. And I'd say she's probably a big one. I know Leona Sim has played on the professional side in this area. We got Norma McLean, Teresa Knudsen. There's been a lot, and I think they're all carving their way. And I know Teresa Knudsen went over to Germany and sent some records, which was pretty cool. And Emily Reed's over there right now in Sweden. So I encourage it immensely for our players to go over and play professionally, because who wants to work in the real world? So the longer you can put off the real world, the better. That's the way I look at it. And working a desk job 9 to 5, that can wait. And regardless if you're making $1 million or you're making $10, it's an experience that I don't think many people in this world have an opportunity to do so. So it's, like I said, it's proud. We're very, very proud of our alumni and our players.
What advice would you give future high school athletes looking to play college ice hockey?
The advice, I think open-mindedness is a big one. That, right now with the COVID year that the NCAA gave back to universities, is in the transfer rules that have changed. Not that it really changed much for us, that teams are going to switch and do what they got to do to make their teams better. And I think recruits sometimes feel like I got to graduate now, as opposed to maybe taking another year. I think is important. I think the one thing that's misguided too, and especially under COVID, that people worked on skill and worked on shooting, and that's great, as you need to be able to do all those things and having skills coach. But now it's work ethic. College hockey is extremely hard. College athletics is extremely hard. And if you don't work, you better be exceptional at something. And usually in hockey, it's either you're better be an excellent goaltender, or you better be a 20, 30 goal kid. And those don't really fall off trees now, do they? So I think the work ethic and the intelligence is something that they need to hone and do a better job with. Because when they get to our level, every day you're fighting your teammates in a good way in practice. And if you don't have that work ethic, that everyday approach, it's going to be tough. And that's a life skill. That's something that will carry you for the rest of your life. So I'd say that's the biggest thing, is just making sure being a good person and being a great worker. Those are two things that I don't know of any coach that wouldn't want.
What advice would you give future college ice hockey players looking to go from playing college to obviously going professionally, whether it's the PWHPA or the PHF?
Just be a sponge, ask questions. I think the best way to learn is going through obviously hard experiences, but being okay to sacrifice maybe a salary to learn from a coach that you might feel is doing things the right way. And I think right now in today's society, you have a lot of people that want instant gratification and instant results, which I understand why. But coaching, it's an art form, it's a craft, it's a trade. I mean, plumbers, they go through apprenticeships for a reason. And I think hockey coaches are very similar, that this is a trade. It's a unique skill set. Any coaching is, but you got to be patient with it and making sure you're surrounding yourself with the head coach that's willing to be a mentor and when you're on the road recruiting, which is a huge part of your life as far as an assistant coach, is ask questions and take pride in your craft. We don't know everything. I still don't know everything. And a lot of people feel like I don't know anything, and that's fine, but you can never stop. And I think as young coaches, it's okay to ask questions. And I think hockey people, excuse me, are great people and are open to talk and communicate and give whatever they can back to the game. So you can't be afraid or intimidated to pull a coach aside and talk to him and ask him questions. And that's the best part. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody like Bill Belichick asking young assistants about, why this or why that? So you have one of the greatest coaches in history is humble enough to go and talk to a first-year head coach. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know about having an open mind and always willing to learn.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the UConn women's ice hockey program?
Well, UConn Huskies obviously is the big one, UConnHuskies.com. And then from there, the links into all of our information to our university and to our program and all of our programs and the things that we provide as an institution. And not too much of a social media guy, but the links are obviously all linked to our signatures, but not that hard to find. That's the nice part about UConn. It's kind of a recognized name, and it's usually because of the people that have worked before us and the ones that currently, obviously, Gino, Coach Daly and staff, but Paul Caddy and so on and so forth. So UConn name is pretty nice. So you can find all my information there.
Thank you again for your interview and best of luck in your future with the UConn women's ice hockey program.
I appreciate it, Brandon. Thanks for everything. Have a happy holiday.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Casey, for your interview and best of luck in your future.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.